Hello, welcome to Spirit Guided Fitness. I'm Kimberly. I'm so glad you're here. And this is our um, week zero. So, week zero, uh, it's our preparation week. So, let me see this. We're preparing for transformation this week. That's what we're doing in week zero. So, um, welcome. And I'd like us to start by taking some breaths. So we're going to take 3 breaths in through our nostril, and we're going to open our mouth with the exhale, and we're just going to clear the breath so we could even make a sound. So let's try inhaling through the nostril. Open your mouth, sigh it out. 2 more times. Let's make a little noise here. One more time. Excellent. I'm hoping that you're feeling a little more relaxed in your shoulders and in your neck and your jaw. And now let's invite our all the energies of light and love that surround us. Let's invite them in. If you have angels or fairies, ancestors, enlightened masters, animal guides, spirit guides, invite them all, welcome them. Beautiful. So in Spirit Guided Fitness, we're crossing a river. That's what we're going to be doing. We're crossing a river, and it's a river of change. The change that we make in Spirit Guided Fitness is a new understanding of what we are. We have been trained in our culture to understand ourselves to be bodies, to be matter, or I call it meat suits, to be meat suits. And Spirit Guided Fitness is an opportunity to, in a community of people, to practice ideas that are outside of what the mainstream is doing and is going to bring about a greater freedom than the mainstream community and culture is willing to have. So we are going to use our spirit guided resources and each other as support as we cross this river of change, and we are discovering a new orientation. And the basis of this orientation, the scientific basis of it, has to do with the shift from the Newtonian physics that said that you are an object and that the world is made of subjects and objects that have a simple cause and effect relationship. That, a something moving at a certain speed hits something else and causes that thing to move at a certain speed. And while that description of our universe definitely describes what we see with our eyes, we are now living in a quantum universe. There's a new science of quantum physics that is describing a very different way of being. And in the quantum science, we are energy. And as energy, all possibilities are open to us at all times. And that means in all dimensions of time. You know, how can we call forth ascended masters who perhaps lived thousands of years ago? How can we call forth an ascended master? Well, the physics that we are now understanding, that scientists are speaking of and have created experiments that prove that this is indeed a closer description to our actual reality. This science is opening a portal, a doorway, an opportunity for regular people to begin to be extraordinary, to live into possibilities that we just, our parents couldn't have dreamed of. And one of the applications of this, the implications of our identity as energy, as just pure energy, is that we no longer have to do things the old Newtonian way. We no longer have to drag our bodies through time and space in order to achieve a shift in the energy. And that's the whole journey that we're taking together in Spirit Guided Fitness. It's a journey of how much am I willing to let myself be free, to think in new ways, to experiment, to be courageous, to be silly, to have fun, to be happy. It's extraordinary how much courage it takes to be happy and to do things the easy way instead of the hard way. Have you noticed how, we give so much adulation and praise to people who work hard and work their finger to the bone and pull themselves up by their bootstraps and take the bull by the horns and wrestle things to the ground? And we just are so enamored of that in our culture. And the person who's kind of dreamy, or the person who goes with the flow and is just relaxed and kind of lets things happen and seems really happy, and maybe they're a little goofy and a little weird, well, that person doesn't always get recognized the way we recognize the ones that, go out and go get them. So Spirit Guided Fitness it's a big shift. And so we're going to depend on each other. We're going to take care of each other, and we're going to depend on each other, because we're going to need to know that it's okay for us to do things. And when it comes to our bodies and to fitness, to exercise, we have been given so many rules and regulations and standards around what's appropriate and how much you should weigh, and how, if you're a certain height, what your ratio of weight should be, and where your blood pressure should be, and just a million measurements we have been told. So what we're actually experimenting with is knowing our wellness by the way we feel, not by an external measurement, although, absolutely, it's wonderful to have external measurements. It's great to go to the doctors. It's great to do all those things. But if we're going to be pioneers, if we're going to explore this new universe in which we find ourselves, this pure energy, let's also begin to orient our wellness, the knowing of ourselves as well. Let's begin to orient that not to how we look, not to what somebody else thinks or says, or how we show up on a chart, but let's orient to how we feel. And let's become willing to choose our feelings the same way we choose everything else. Let's just make choosing our feelings normal, like brushing our teeth. And, when we don't brush our teeth, most of us don't like the way that feels. We notice it pretty quickly. And let's get to that same place with choosing our feelings. When we're not choosing happiness, let's start to look around and say, this is, I don't like this. Let's do it differently. So I'm going to show you a picture of one of the guides that I've invited to join us in Spirit Guided Fitness. And you'll recognize her probably right away. This is Harriet Tubman. And I've invited Harriet to, I asked her if she would be willing to support our journey. She may not support the whole journey from beginning to end. We may be calling in other energies, but to start with, I asked Harriet if she would support us for several reasons, and I want to just talk a little bit about her. So of all the people in space and time that I could imagine and I could feel their connection with spirit, Harriet Tubman's connection with spirit was so powerful. I was like, yes, please join us. When she was a young woman, and she was always, from a very young age, she was someone who was passionate about freedom and justice. And not just freedom and justice for enslaved people, but freedom and justice for everyone. She supported women's right to vote. She was somebody whose passion for thinking in new ways was extraordinary. And when she was a young woman, she happened to be in a store where a slave owner was pursuing a slave who was away from the slave. And the slave owner picked up this weight that was on the counter of the general store. And as he hurled it at the slave who was escaping, Harriet stepped in between and received this blow to her head. And she was incapacitated for months. Basically, it was a traumatic brain injury. And as a result of that brain injury, she started having these spells where she would just be walking around very normally, and suddenly she would fall asleep. And she would never know when it was going to happen or for how long she would be in the sleep. And that continued for her entire life. But somehow she went into the South 19 times after she herself escaped. She went back 19 times and brought family members and friends and anyone who was willing to risk everything, truly everything, to be free. She rescued people, and several hundred people, and always with dealing with this situation of not knowing when she might fall asleep. And just like someone who loses their eyesight, for example, starts to have a very powerful, like one of their other senses compensates and becomes very powerful. When Harriet Tubman lost her ability to know what her body was going to do at any given time, her connection to her inner wisdom, her spirit, her connection to God, to the energy of the universe grew very big and very powerful. And Harriet could hear clearly the voice of spirit or God or her inner knowing. And she would get, direct instructions about what to do, what not to do, where to go, where not to go, and when. And some of the instructions that she received were, really far out. For instance, she heard at one point when she was leading a group out of enslaved states, she was told, go back in order not to be caught, go back in, and then come back out. Or cross this river, even though all of the people in her group were terrified that they were going to drown. She heard cross the river. And she went first. And as she crossed the river, it got deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. But she never went in over her head. She came out the other side, and all the other people with her saw that she did it, and they did it. So Harriet Tubman is a guide for us as we journey to, we're on a journey of freedom. We're on a journey of discovery. And it takes a lot of courage to risk everything, to risk looking foolish or, choosing to do something different than everyone else is doing, to take a chance on something that you haven't proven yet. All of these take courage and they feel like they're big risks. So Harriet is walking with us as we journey from enslavement, which is really this idea that we're trapped in a body, that we're, what happens to the body happens to us. A lot of us have the feeling that there are a lot of limitations, whether we have a chronic illness or a family history of a certain condition, or we've told ourselves our whole lives we're not athletic. A lot of us feel enslaved, even if we're not outwardly enslaved. So many of us have the feeling of being trapped or limited on some level. And so Harriet's here to walk us out of slavery to freedom. And I'm just going to show you, so she was called a conductor, a train conductor. And that's because she used what was called the Underground Railroad to freedom. And the Underground Railroad was a series of um, human beings who cared deeply about other human beings and at enormous risk to themselves broke the law to enable enslaved people to become free. And all of these red lines all over the place, these are all roots of the Underground Railroad. And right over here, right up here in this Buffalo, Rochester area, this is where Harriet Tubman often brought her groups into Canada. She talks often about looking at Niagara Falls before they, stopping at Niagara Falls as one of their landmarks and one of the places where they celebrated their journey to freedom. So I guess what I'm saying is that we're in really good company. We're in really good hands. We're starting on an epic journey, and we're entrusting our journey to beautiful and powerful beings who only want our good. Just like all of these stops along these roads of the Underground Railroads, all of these were people with love in their hearts. And as a community, as a spirit guided fitness community, we are that for each other. And we will be we will be calling forth love and support from those not in bodies, ancestors and spirit guides, and from those that are in their bodies. I have three tasks or asks for you for this week 0. And I'm going to get to that in a moment. I want to show you one more slide with Harriet Tubman on it. And I'm so excited. I'm sure you know that she's going to be on the $20 bill starting in the year 2020. And you can see one of her hands is extended out, like, please join me and take my hand. And in her other hand, that's a gun. That's a gun. Now, she never used the gun, but the reason that she carried a pistol was that she wanted to make sure that it was really clear that whoever chose to go with her understood that once you set out on this journey, once you decided, I'm becoming free. I'm risking everything and I'm becoming free. Once you made that decision, there was no turning back. Now, she never used that gun, but she wasn't kidding. And she knew that we tend to backslide. If we have the wiggle room, we will retreat when things get challenging, when things seem, like they're overwhelming. We sometimes want to go back where we came from. And what Harriet explained, like the night, as it would grow dark, and the group had assembled. Sometimes they would be in a hay barn, and everybody was under bales of hay, waiting for it to get dark enough for them to start their journey. She had that conversation just like we're having. She had a week 0 conversation with everyone who traveled with her. And her week 0 conversation was basically, what you're doing cannot be undone. Like once you begin this journey and you really want to be free and you're willing to do whatever it takes, you can't let anything turn you around. So if you're feeling like this isn't for me, you're almost better off not doing it, because you can't not do, once we've started, we're not turning around. And that's how I see our spirit guided fitness journey. There are no accidents that, that we're together. All of us, that this group has assembled together to take an epic journey as pioneers to rewrite the science of exercise and nutrition. We are going to do things that have never been done, ever. We're going to be experimenting in our real lives in real time, and we're going to make discoveries. Now, everyone who's done something really original they've had to relinquish and release all of the ways in which they've held themselves in some form of limitation. And so I guess what Harriet Tubman is saying to us is, don't let your limitations turn you back. Keep going. You are here to bring the light. You're here to demonstrate. You're not doing this just for yourself. Just like Harriet Tubman lived a life of service from beginning to end, never complained, never said, why me? She served from the moment, she could start leading people out of enslavement. She served all the way to the end of her life. And we're the same. We have the same deep desire for freedom, for justice, and for service. And that's what we are going to support in each other. And my 3 asks for week 0, I'm going to give them to you right now. My first ask is that you find, either within our spirit guided fitness community or within your friends or family or colleagues, a spirit guided fitness partner, because we're going to learn a lot of new things. Even what we did today, even just understanding that we can invite an energy such as Harriet Tubman to resource our journey. That might be something that many of us have never even considered that we could do. We didn't know we could ask the resources of Joan of Arc or Mozart or Majalu. We didn't know we could just say, I'm invoking that energy to assist me. So my ask is that you find a partner and that you understand that your relationship with this person is to teach everything you're learning. So you can share, the two of you can talk about your experiences, but your primary job is to teach. The reason that you're going to teach is that the way your brain works is that if we hear something once, our brain creates a neuron, a neural pathway. If we practice that, that neural pathway continues to expand and connect to other neural pathways. It grows just like a path that you walk on gets larger and wider. And when we teach something, we are putting it into our brain in an even deeper way because we're having to formulate the words and come up with our own images and explain it in new ways. So we're really enabling everything that we are learning in this course to become our own, because we want to keep what we learn here. We want to have it ready so that we can use it as situations arise. We want to have all these things available and ready for us. So my first ask, find a partner, make a plan with that person. Like, yeah, we'll talk once a week and then we'll take turns. I'll teach you, you teach me. That doesn't mean that you can't also teach other people in your life. The more you can teach what you're learning, the deeper the experience is going to be for you. And also the more sure-footed you will be. Just like Harriet Tubman became adept at hearing the voice of spirit and trusting it. How did she learn that? By doing it. She did it. The first time, maybe it was a little scary. The 15th time, not very scary. The 107th time, she didn't even have to think about it anymore. It was just second nature. She heard, she trusted. So that's what we would like to become with these ideas and the practices that we're going to be taking on in the next 8 weeks of Spirit Guided Fitness. My second ask is that you get a journal. And the journal is going to be an opportunity for you to record your experiences, to also to record what you receive in guidance. And keeping a journal, like a ship's log, is going to give you a sense of your progress over the weeks of Spirit Guided Fitness. And you're going to enjoy looking back at some of the things that felt very challenging, some of the questions that you had at the beginning. And it's also going to be really fun to see the early guidance that you received and how the guidance that you receive at the beginning of a journey is applicable throughout the entire journey. So your guidance is going to just over and over again, you're going to be struck by just how wise you truly are. So getting a journal so that you can receive your wisdom. And then my third ask is that you create a sacred space. So this sacred space can be indoors or outdoors. It's totally original and personal to you. And the purpose of your sacred space is to be the place where you invite all the beings of light that support your journey. So it's your, one of a kind space so that you can gather together the ancestors, the resources, the masters, the angels, and all the beings of light, the animal spirits who want to support your journey. That's a wonderful place as well to have your journal. So you can sit in your sacred space, you can sit quietly, you can journal there. And it's a wonderful place as a retreat. You know, we need places that support us. We need energetic spaces that support us so that we have a soft place to fall when we need it. So that those are the three asks that I have for this week 0. And I'm just going to go through the last few slides because we're finishing up. So the essential question of spirit guided fitness is, would you rather be pure love energy, which is spirit, or a meat suit, which is matter? And I know I know which I want to be. And we'll talk about how I practiced these ideas and how they came to me. But this is the question I'd like for you to think about this week. As you move around, as you feel yourself in your body, I want you to just consider, would you rather be energy or matter? And it isn't that you're not going to have a body. You have a body. Just spirit guided fitness is suggesting that you are far more than your body. You have a body, but that doesn't mean you are a body. And lastly, I wanted to share these pictures from a scientist who has since passed away named Dr. Emoto, a Japanese scientist who studied the effect of energy on water crystals. And so Dr. Emoto would put water crystals into various environments. So in some environments, he would have violent music playing. Some environments he would have, very lovely orchestral music playing. In some environments, he would have different words written on the containers that the water was in. And he would then freeze the water crystals that were in each of these environments and then photograph them. And what you're seeing are 3 different environments and the water crystals that were the result of those environments. We have love, and we have thank you, which is gratitude, and we have I hate you. And as you are aware, the meat suit is somewhere around 70 to 80% water. That's what the meat suit is made of. And so what I'm suggesting by showing these water crystals is that we are in no way diminishing the body. The body is such a fantastic experience that we get to have. We honor the body. We honor it by understanding it. And what we want is to have a body that's 70 to 80% water that is a thank you body. It's a love body. It's a body whose energy is so beautifully articulated. It's just the crystals of the body are exquisite. That's the beauty and the potential of spirit guided fitness, that we thank and love this body, knowing what it is. And the feeling of self-judgment, of self-loathing, the feeling of criticism and comparison. We're willing to leave those feelings and ideas and that the enslavement that comes from those, and we are going to freedom, and we're not looking back. That's the joy. So we're supporting each other in a journey of joy. Let's see. So we got just one more slide here. So this slide is, it just reiterates our 3 steps for this week. Creating a sacred space to commune with spirit. Finding a spirit-guided fitness practice partner. And having a journal to receive your guidance. And one thing I wanted to say about that journal is that the journal becomes like a portable sacred space. So if you can't get to your sacred space, the geographical location, your journal can go with you wherever you go, and you can tune in and receive your guidance wherever you are. So I want to thank you, and I love you. And I want to thank Harriet Tubman. I want to thank all of the ascended masters and the angels, all the spirit guides, all the light beings, the animal spirits, the nature spirits, the energies of the 4 directions. I want to thank all of you, and all of those in your circles who support you. I love you, and I will be sending this recording out, and I'll make sure that there are instructions that you'll be needing to make sure you can access all of the course materials. And hopefully I've been seeing your questions in my email. So I'm just sending information sort of in response to what some of you have asked, just in case lots of you have similar questions. So just, keep an eye on your email inbox, and I'm going to be sending you information to support your journey. And next week, next Thursday at 7 p.m., we're going to have our week 1 session. And our week 1 session is called Fight, Flight, Freeze, Undoing the Addiction. So that's our week 1. And I'm really excited about some of the ideas and practices that we're going to get to experiment with next week. And until then, I love you. Thank you. And thanks for being in Spirit Guided Fitness. Bye.